Are you Pinoy baiting?
Which place do you prefer living, the US or the Philippines?
Do your kids actually like traveling?
Are you guys actually going to buy a condo in the Philippines?
What's a not so great thing about your family that you've never shared on YouTube before?
When are you going to visit the Philippine spots that I've recommended in the comments? We're the Lockwood family. Our primary home's in Denver, Colorado, but we've been traveling the Philippines since 2022 and set up a second home in Metro Manila earlier this year. Today we're addressing the juiciest questions and topics from your comments in our countless YouTube episodes, and no topic is off limits. So here we are in our Denver home. We left our Metro Manila home about, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And we're not going back again until next month, so probably a month, 5 weeks away from now.
Or no, we recently launched our last episode with Reagan from her visit to the Philippines.
Yeah, and in case you don't know, so Reagan is my daughter, my oldest child and only child from my first marriage, as you know. She was about 3 years old when her mom and I divorced. We were already living right here in the same neighborhood. So when we divorced, we both had to have homes here for Reagan, who was going into preschool. And ever since then, her mom and I have both had homes here in Denver, and neither one of us can really leave just because of the dynamics of the divorce and custody and so on. So we have 50-50 splits. And when Reagan's with us, we're here in Denver. And when she's with her mom, that's when we travel.
Mm-hmm. Even though our family's been going back and forth from here to Manila since 2022, last month was Reagan's first trip to Asia.
Which is absolutely nuts. And in our earlier episodes, like up until about 3 years ago, wow, I can't believe how long we've been doing this. She was in pretty much every episode because she was traveling with us. This was like during the pandemic. So it's really weird to go back and see those old episodes and see that she's in all of them. But then, of course, when it was time for her to go into high school and the pandemic had passed, she was really excited about doing in-person high school. So we supported that, and that just has meant really that she's not had the freedom to travel with us, let alone, the same desire as when we started out. So it's worked out pretty well. We've got 1 year left until she's off to college, and then everything changes.
She's been happy. We've been happy. But I want to mention that those episodes Phil's talking about are on our Always Be Changing channel.
95% of people who are watching this right now know that we have more than one channel, and they know that Always Be Changing was their first channel. So yeah, maybe the bulk of our Philippines trips are episodes. Not episodes, because we've done so much from BGC and everything. We've got a lot on this channel now. But maybe most of the islands that we have visited are on the Always Be Changing channel, not really on this channel.
Except for the first episode we posted on this channel is the 4-hour compilation video.
Yeah, I'm sure almost everybody knows about the 4-hour compilation video because a lot of them found us through that. It's almost 1 million views already from 6 months ago.
Amazing.
And so crazy how many people watch it all the way through too.
Blows my mind. Now, let's get to these juicy questions.
And I don't know, they're not all juicy, right? But I think these are hybrid questions where it's sort of stuff that people have been writing in comments or in emails to us. And some of it is like our interpretation of things that people really wonder about, have asked about, or things that we think people should know. So we've edited these for clarity.
Yeah, and across, all channels and mediums, so Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, it's just in general what people are wondering about us.
You want to ask the first one?
Okay. What did your oldest daughter really think about the Philippines with her first trip here?
Honest to God, 100%, no questions asked. She had a great time. But I will caveat that by saying if we had done it differently, we maybe wouldn't have had the same result.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, one thing that I would say is she was asking over and over and over in the months leading up to coming out about the heat. She's like, is it going to be hot? Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be hot? And of course, the answer to that is it's going to be ridiculously hot. So that alone may have been a bit of an issue. Having her come kind of tag along old episode style for us may have made it a little bit less fun. Letting her bring her boyfriend along was a game changer.
Loved it. Love him. I mean, honestly, that was the most quality time that we've spent with him and really got to know him. And he's a fantastic person. But the best part is seeing how happy she is.
With him.
Yes, with him. Like, he makes her so happy, and that just makes my heart so happy.
He's a good kid.
Yeah.
Guy.
Yeah.
He's like 17.
I
so.
know. I just was going to say that when you watch our episodes, the emotions that we have are like kicked up 10 times what it comes across as on camera, if that makes sense. So like when you see, you know, when you're not used to vlogging, like Reagan and Mason aren't used to vlogging. And so when they say like, yeah, this burger's really good, when it's on camera, it looks like it's 10x less energy because we've like learned and trained ourselves to have that like over the top energy to express how we really feel about something, so it comes across as organic and natural. And
it sounds like what you're getting at is that some people have commented like maybe they didn't seem too excited, or we even just kind of thought that based on us watching the episodes, and seems like they weren't quite as enthusiastic as we were. But yeah, it's like like you said, it was completely natural and raw. They weren't performing. They weren't pretending that anything was better than it actually was. They actually really enjoyed it, had a great time. The food was good. There were some dishes they fell in love with. So yeah, it was genuine enjoyment to be in the Philippines. Yeah. And I think Reagan really enjoyed getting to show some of this stuff to Mason, and there were a couple of first-time things in there for him, like scuba diving, for example. He had never gone scuba diving. So I think she enjoyed even helping him have that experience, which was really cool.
And there was so much behind-the-scenes gratitude that we weren't able, or we didn't catch it on camera. These were private conversations where she just expressed how great of a time they were both having. And it was the best family trip ever. It was so awesome.
It was great to have the entire band back together again. And especially, she's going into senior year. I don't know if we'll have another one like that epic.
Yeah, I hope so.
That long, that far away, that remote, that exotic.
You never know.
The answer to that question is, she loved it. And Mason loved it. And they said afterwards, I think, if I try to get it verbatim, I think she said, that was one of the best trips ever. There you have it. My turn to ask a question. When are you going to visit the Philippine spots that I've recommended in the comments?
Woo-hoo! Soon. Very soon. So, as so many people know, we have our favorite travel partners in the Philippines, Guide to the Philippines, and they are setting us up with some phenomenal trips throughout the year. But as soon as this fall, as soon as we get back to Manila, I think our first stop is going to be Davao, and that's been one that a lot of people have been asking us to go and visit soon. I think we're also going to go see the Bicol region. And I'm most excited about our group trip. So we have a group trip for the Philippines. Anybody can join. Anybody from anywhere in the world can come with us, of course. But this is a trip to show off one of the most beautiful spots in the Philippines. Yeah. So we're going into Dumaguete. We're doing some city tours. We're going to have a welcome party. You're going to make cocktails. And then we are going to Siquijor. I am so excited. This is like probably, now that we've gone to so many destinations in the Philippines, Siquijor is probably the number one most recommended place people have been commenting about. And we're going to go.
We had so many people answer that poll that we put up about where they'd like to go. And even before we mentioned specific places, I think people were saying Siquijor.
Yes.
And even then, once we put the poll up, it was a clear winner. Like, I don't even remember if it was 90% of people were saying Dumaguete and Siquijor. Mm-hmm. So there's something that people know about that place, and I can't wait to find out, precisely what it is. Like you said, I've been to Dumaguete and spent just a little bit of time there, but I've never been to Siquijor.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it's going to be pretty epic. We're going to be there.
We're going to be there. Right?
With everybody.
Yeah. I know. Come to hang out with us.
Now, I got to say that I'm the one who set up the form and everything so that people could kind of pre-register for this group trip. And I know that Guide to the Philippines has us aiming for between 30 and 36 people just based on the partners that they have arranged this with and what capacities are. Mm-hmm. And I think we've had about 29 come through so far. So we're close there. Everybody still has to go through the payment process, so it's hard to say how many of those are going to convert very soon, very quickly, into actual booked people who are going to join us. But if you want to come on this, time is of the essence. Make sure you go right now, register at followabc.com/Philippines trip.
Yes.
I don't like that URL. by the way.
Well,
Because it's also
made it.
Philippine strip.
That's hilarious. I never thought of that. Anyways, it works. And that's where you got to go to register. Yeah. So, yeah, please make sure to register, but know that you have to still follow through with providing the information. Your trip can also be somewhat customized depending on your party size and ages and stuff like that. So head over there, get all the information you need.
Some of the other places that people really beg us to go to would include what?
Well, Batanes.
Okay. And when do you think that'll happen?
I am hoping the spring, because there is like ideal times to go, and I'm hoping the spring is when we're going to head over there. And it's not a cheap place to go to because it's so secluded, and there's really only one flight from Manila that goes to the island, and it's so close to Taiwan. So it's like a different world. People say it's like the Ireland of the Philippines.
And we might be in Ireland later this year, so we'll be able to compare and see how accurate they are.
Oh my gosh, you reminded me of how much I need to do. Like I have to figure that trip out too.
Hit me.
Oh, this is a doozy. Do your kids actually like traveling?
The answer to that question changes every single time we address it, and we have addressed it many times, of course. When we started this channel and started these travels, the entire family was so enthusiastic and so on board. And I think part of that was the fact that we had just gotten out of lockdown for so long. Everybody had cabin fever. So just being able to go out and experience new things, it felt like a vacation for everybody at first. And then I've noticed over the years, all three of our kids have kind of changed their perspective a bit. We already talked about Reagan wanting to go to in-person school, so that was more important to her than seeing the world. And then, Brooklyn and Colt just continued to be very engaged in wherever we were going. But I've seen a definite split over the past year where Colt is still 100% into it.
Probably even more. Yeah.
More than 100%?
More, I would say more every year he becomes more into it.
Yeah, because I think every year he's doing it for more of the real, like, culture hunting, passionate reasons versus just this is fun, right?
He loves it. And the idea of sitting in a classroom to him sounds like torture. He's got to be outside.
The grass is always greener on the other side. But if you had asked me when I was his age, hey, would you rather keep going to school or do you want to travel the world? I'd be like, that is the dumbest question I've ever heard. But it just depends on where you're coming from, what your perspective is, and, to some extent, your personality. But
Totally.
I see a lot of similarity in Brooklyn with Reagan. Like, Brooklyn's going into 8th grade, not 9th grade, when Reagan said she wanted to do in-person high school. But we're so close right now, and you know that Brooklyn really wants to do in-person high school, and so we're going to support that because that's what we do. We're trying to figure out how. I mean, honestly, I would like to be able to get her into in-person school even for this upcoming year would be very interesting. We just have too many travel plans on the books, and it conflicts.
And I want to use this time to do as much traveling as we can. So we're going to make the most out of this last year before she goes to in-person school. But that doesn't mean we're going to stop traveling. Not at all. Not at all.
But there will have to be some tweak to it. And actually, we're already starting to do that. People have been asking this, like, why isn't they always say funny stuff like, why isn't the little girl in the episodes anymore? Why isn't your youngest daughter in this one?
Yeah.
And that's because we are not one of those families that exploits our kids for this. They've always done it when they want to do it because they want to do it. And there are a lot of times now, increasingly so, when Brooklyn is not really in the mood to be on the episode. Sometimes she's not even in the mood to do the experience that we're doing, but that's part of growing up. That's part of parenting.
Right.
We're going to show them experiences.
Right.
So many things from my childhood I didn't want to do, working on the ranch and so on, but that was part of my childhood.
Right.
But when it comes to being on camera, if one of our kids says, I don't want to do it, it's 100% immediate, like, then you're out.
Right.
That
needs to be okay for their sake, for their psyche, with what we do, to know that they still have choice and that they can advocate for themselves, and they need to know that they're allowed to change their minds. I mean, who knows? Colt might not be into lizards. I doubt that'll happen, but he has the freedom to choose like a different career path, someday, Yeah, I want them to know that their life is about making the most of it, and it's theirs alone. And I just know both of them have so much potential.
They really do. And I don't know, maybe we'll see a change with Brooklyn as she goes through this sometimes very challenging time of childhood, the tween teen years.
Yeah.
And she might get back on board to a greater degree. She's on and off of the episodes now, so sometimes she really is in the mood. Sometimes she's excited about a particular activity that we're doing or a destination that we're going to, and it's hit or miss. But I like leaving it up to her, but it also makes it a little bit challenging to do some planning. Sometimes sponsorships and that sort of thing are kind of geared around the whole family, so we end up doing those episodes that way. But, what does it look like in a year? Is it the Phil and Aaron and Colt show? Could be. I mean, we've always known that these kids, hopefully, are going to fly the nest at some point, and then
exactly.
I don't think we want to be retired, so we know it's going to be the Phil and Aaron show for the most part at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Someday, we really are going to be transitioning from a family of 5 traveling together, and someday it's going to be just the 2 of us, because that's just how life works.
And that's how our name works. Always be changing. All right, my turn. Ready?
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, I know why this one's being asked, because some of our episodes on this channel recently, but are you guys actually going to buy a condo in the Philippines?
Oh, no. Not a condo, at least. We have a ton of ideas of how we want to stay involved and connected and have life in the Philippines. So we're going to explore those, especially this coming year as we lead up to Brooklyn doing high school. But as far as a condo in Metro Manila goes, it's just not the right market. I wouldn't be encouraging anybody to buy in this market right now. After doing all the exploring that we've done, it doesn't seem like a good fit, especially, for us. And also, you might be interested to know, Phil is not a condo person because you're such a perfectionist and you want to have a home. You want to have the house, the whole thing that you can work on and control and be nitpicky about the little things and the big things, and you want it to be yours. A condo, I think, is really hard for you because we did have a condo once and you didn't really like the whole shared concept of the building.
For me, a lot of it comes down to the difference between ownership and renting, with ownership, not having the ability to change everything about our home that I could possibly want to change, meaning exterior and infrastructure and stuff like that, is definitely challenging. But more than that, even here in the U.S., if we sell our Denver home when Reagan goes to college next spring, next summer, we don't want to buy anything else in the States for a little while. We're thinking rent because we want the freedom and, mostly the freedom.
Yeah, and we just don't know what we're going to be doing for the next 5 years after that, or the next 10 years after that even. So I don't want to sell another house after we sell this home. So I feel like whatever we do decide that we want to buy a home in the U.S., I want that to be a forever home. But as far as the Philippines go, I really do see us buying something that you can fix up, control the build process, and make it exactly how you envision it, either in a personal capacity, maybe a beach home, or a business, which actually gets me more excited. Like if we maybe looked into starting a boutique resort, something like that.
I love the idea of the boutique resort, but I don't love the idea of not being able to actually own there. And I guess we could look into that long-term lease thing, but I think I would prefer that over having to do a partnership that is majority Filipino owned, because having started and run so many businesses in my life, the partnership thing just creates a big challenge. So
right, and that is the other thing, is that there are limitations for us being U.S. citizens. So
this is what I love about Paolo's idea with the houseboats. It's kind of brilliant because you don't own land; it's just something on the water. It's like parking a boat, and so he's I believe married to
A Filipina.
her. Yeah.
Aprilyn, I think is her name.
Yeah, Aprilyn. So that would get him over this whole issue anyway. But even prior to that, it's really kind of a brilliant move. Maybe we could mimic something like that, but I don't know.
Who knows? That is like not at the top of our list, but it's on the list somewhere. So I do feel like we're going to venture in that area.
Yeah, we've already got the conversations going.
We do.
Okay.
All right. My question for you, Phil. Why do your episodes seem more commercialized now?
Well, first of all, I would agree that they are. And I think that I've not done an ideal job with some of our sponsorships, some of our ads, some of our partnerships.
What do you mean?
Well, like even you are always like, this is too long. This ad is too long. And as an artist, I always want to make it as good as I possibly can. And it's hard to do that in 60 seconds.
And you're such a good partner to work with because you over deliver.
Well, we both share that mentality. We always want to do that. And I'm okay with that. But I think there are more effective ways to do it. But yeah, some people have been commenting, as soon as I saw the ad, I'm gone. It's commercialized, I'm out of here.
One person put, don't put any politics on there, like no political ads, which we have no control over.
Oh, so they're talking about YouTube ads.
Some people are referring to YouTube ads.
That's interesting. I hadn't even looked at it from that angle, but I do know that, I think people just have an issue when we have our own ads, our own sponsorships in there, but I don't think they can really appreciate how much it costs us to make these episodes because of the travel costs alone. There are other YouTubers, even in the Philippines, Calvin Castiel, Evan over at Savvy Expat, for example. Number one, these guys are able to film and produce most of their episodes in Metro Manila at home,
Right.
So those costs are much lower without having any kind of travel involved for the most part. And then when they do travel, now Calvin, I think, has a little crew he takes with him sometimes, but we're taking a family of 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 6 everywhere we go. And this is another thing I'm not sure that people really realize, but airlines don't give us child rates.
Right.
To fly Brooklyn across the Pacific costs exactly the same as to fly you across the Pacific. So when you think about a solo creator compared to us, our expenses are 4 times as high. Yeah. We're spending over $100,000 a year just on travel costs, and it's not sustainable without our sponsorships, without our partnerships. Yeah. But for this channel in particular, this is why I love the Guide to the Philippines partnership that we have. It's perfect because what they want us to say and promote throughout an episode is exactly what we're already doing, what we'd already be highlighting in that episode, even without the sponsorship. They're providing the transportation, airline, ground transportation, tours, lodging. That's since day one, that's what we show in our episode. So it's kind of cool that they're just like, yeah, just mention our name or mention the brand's name and you're kind of done. And the rest of it is like super organic. It doesn't get more organic than that.
No, and they are just so great to work with, not an ad. They truly are. Like, they are a dream partner for us for the Philippines. So we hit the jackpot by meeting with them. So we're super lucky.
But I do think that we can be more effective in a few things. Number one, keeping our ads to a shorter duration. Number two, being more strategic about where we put them in the episode, like not in the first 2-3 minutes. Number three, making them more organic whenever possible, and making them less disruptive, basically. Yeah. And I think that would make a big difference. I think some other channels do it well, and we've certainly had a 2024 full of experimentation, luggage ads that were more than 4 minutes long kind of thing. But I think that it's given us enough range of experience that now we know, all right, here's what we're going to do moving forward. So,
yeah. Well, I love that we're always trying, like always improving, always moving forward, always be changing.
All right, let's see what we got here. Which place do you prefer living, the U.S. or the Philippines?
That's going to be a different answer, I think, for all 4 of us. I prefer living in BGC because, we couldn't live in 2 very different places. In Denver, we're here in the suburbs, and then in Manila, we're in BGC in the city. And I love living in the city because for me, it's all about the walkability. I love walking downstairs, being outside. I really don't need a big home if we're in a city. I could live in a tiny little shoebox apartment if I can just walk outside and go get dinner, do shopping. I love walking to the grocery store and having to walk back with the groceries. I just love the lifestyle. And I love the climate. I love the heat, and the humidity does not bother me whatsoever. So I am happy in the Philippines. Colt would say the same. I think he loves all the same things that I do about it. I think he might like a little bit more added element of animals. You know, like here he can go out and look for snakes and frogs and stuff, but otherwise he likes the city. Brooklyn, 100% loves the suburbs. Because she likes having a bigger home where she can like have her space and spend a lot of time in her space and then go outside to like parks and stuff. She doesn't really care to walk for restaurants and all the things that gets me excited.
Well, I would say that she gets her adversity related to humidity from me.
Oh, yeah, that too.
But that was a lot of good stuff. Like, surely there are some bad things about living in the Philippines. What would you say are the worst parts?
The things I used to dislike, I'm used to now, like carrying around so much cash. Like in the US, we never carry cash. And we only have credit cards. And then in the Philippines, it's like I almost never use a credit card. I'm always just like using cash. And I've just gotten used to it. But I would say that the paying bills is difficult, especially as a foreigner and us not having a bank account and it being very difficult for us to get a bank account with our lifestyle. Paying bills is a frustrating process. Having to go to the Union Bank and one at a time enter all that information and then sitting and waiting and then talking to somebody.
So basically there's a complete lack of automation with payment systems for foreigners. Now,
that's an easier way to say
it. Filipinos would probably say by and large that's not the case in their experience because they can have things like Gcash. And we're still working on this whole thing, but it is just roadblocks left and right for us because we haven't been able to get Gcash because we don't have proper documentation as a Filipino national or whatever. So we haven't been able to go that route. When it comes to some of the other pieces like bank accounts, like we've been told that we can't even open a bank account without living or being in Manila, being in the Philippines for what, 6 months?
Without leaving. Yeah, which is impossible because of our relationship with Reagan. And it's not ideal because of our love for travel. And it's just not how we're set up.
But yeah, like the 7-Eleven right downstairs, they won't even do credit cards, so we have to have cash just to, go buy candy or something. But if we had Gcash, that would not be an issue.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's it. That's the worst. It's not that bad. Otherwise, I love it.
I love it too, but for me, I like the idea. I like the experience of traveling in the Philippines way more than the experience of living in BGC.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I had to choose between, do you want to be home-based in BGC or home-based in Denver? I mean, that's kind of a toss-up. If we end up moving from Denver back to Coronado next year, it wouldn't be a toss-up. I'd pick Coronado. But would I rather travel the United States or travel the Philippines? That's a no-brainer. It's the Philippines. But that's what I like, is getting out and experiencing all the different places versus just being in the city, which can be a little bit frustrating with some of the things you're talking about.
Yeah. All right. Still my number one pick. Very important question. Are you Pinoy baiting?
I don't know if we're allowed to say that.
Is that an offensive?
No. I think it's... I don't know. I feel like I read something where it's one of those words that like maybe Filipinos can use, but anyway.
No. Really?
I don't know. Let us know in the comments if that's acceptable.
I did not know that.
Don't be afraid. It's not bad. It's not like using some other words in the US. It's just maybe like, that's kind of our thing, Like, and I don't know, Italians calling themselves Guidos or, something like that. I don't know.
Okay. Anyways, I don't use that word except for that one phrase. And because that's really the only phrase that I come across every once in a while. And not just our channel. Like, there's been just a few comments where we've looked at it and been like, what is that? But we see it all the time on other channels. So now you get to answer the question.
I don't think we're Pinoy baiting. And if we are, then we're taking it to an extreme. We spend about half of our time in country. We spend like literally, I think, millions of pesos per year to be able to have an apartment there, to fly back and forth across the Pacific, to be there.
Contributing to the economy with meals and activities.
Creating all this content. I mean, it is nice to have the support of the Filipino audience on YouTube, yes, but there is no way we would go to those lengths just because of the value of the audience. It's about the value of the experience and the culture.
100%. Yes.
And I think even when it comes to our content, like our thumbnails or our titles on YouTube, I think we do a really good job of trying to stay away from Pinoy baiting. Let me just pull up some of our thumbnails here from YouTube, and you can kind of take a look and see what we do. Number one, I don't like the idea of using the Filipino flag on all of our thumbnails. I think it's an aesthetic nightmare. And I remember in 2022 when we started doing episodes, people were like, you got to put the flag on there and it'll double your views. And we were like, oh, really? So we started doing it. But as time goes on, I try to do it less and less. And I really don't like the dynamic that it adds to the thumbnail and the value, the purity that it takes away. So some of these, like Private Island Resort, our most recent episode, we have the flag on there, but only because the text Private Island Resort doesn't even mention that it's in the Philippines. We want it to be clear that this is what you're looking at. We go to Paris, we put Paris in there so that people know from the thumbnail. If we go to South Africa and do a safari, obviously we're going to put that in there as well. So it's basically a shorthand here. The flag represents Philippine Private Island Resort. So it just adds to it. And then our houseboats says Philippine in the title or in the text overlay. So we don't even have the flag on there. Ultimate Filipino Feast on the previous one, no flag because we don't need it. First time in Manila, no flag because we don't need it. It already has the Philippine component in the text overlay. So I love just relying on the purity and shunning the Pinoy baiting component of that. Now, when it comes to our titles, same kind of thing. Like, we forget about Pinoy baiting for a second. Just clickbaiting alone has always been an aesthetic nightmare and something that we've really disliked doing. So some of our titles are really clear about what we're doing, what we're talking about, where it is. There are very few exceptions to that. And do we use the American component in there a lot? We still do, especially with Reagan out there, but I think it changes the meaning. Like, we had one person who's like, why did you say your American daughter instead of just your daughter? But it was our Manila, our very first episode with Reagan out there. Our American daughter finally visits our Philippines home. And obviously, if it was just our daughter finally visits our Philippines home, I mean, that could be anybody from anywhere. It could even be Filipinos whose Filipino daughter came and visited their home. The point is, we brought somebody from the United States over, and that's what changes the dynamic. So I think that we're very careful and very intentional about every title, every thumbnail, every text overlay that we use. And we want it to be classy. We want it to be clear. We want to avoid any of the negative aesthetic grossness that so many other channels use.
Okay, let's move on. Let's ask Phil's question. This is our last question. Tell us a not so great thing about your family, our family, that we've never shared on YouTube before.
I feel like we're pretty transparent, and we've admitted before that we sometimes yell at our kids, and we wish we didn't.
For sure.
But sometimes
human
you do. That's the way I was raised, so it's just ingrained, We don't spank our kids, even though I got spanked as a kid. That was very normal.
No, I'm not okay with the spanking.
But yeah, we don't put those moments in our episodes because not because we want to look like we're a perfect family. No. We do it because we don't want to show our kids worst moments, embarrassing moments, brattiest moments on the internet because it's there forever, and that's their thing. So we try to stay away from showing that. I mean, I guess that would be one thing, but again, I think we admit that all the time. So we've shared it on YouTube, just not in video form. If I had to pick something that we've never really addressed, this kind of goes back to one of our earlier questions, though, talking about sponsorships, partnerships, the commercialization of our content. I suspect people think we make a lot of money doing this. I suspect, more importantly, they think we make more money than we spend on this.
Not the case.
We do not. We do not yet, you know?
Right.
And I think every year for the past at least 2, maybe 3 years, we've thought this is going to be our year. We're going to be profitable this year. And it just hasn't happened. And I don't think we've reduced the amount we spend, wouldn't you say? Like those earlier years, membership, subscriptions, all that stuff with travel, we were trying to go the luxury route and we were really burning through cash. But now
I feel like we still travel the luxury route. We're just smarter about it. Like we're just learning so much as we go. We've had so much experience. It's benefiting us in that way.
Yeah. But it still hasn't made enough of a difference because we still lose money on this every year. And it's meaningful because we are not millionaires. You know, we don't have tons of cash just sitting around that allows us to burn through it like this. It's just that we really believe in what we're doing and there's value in spending that money. Some people choose to spend that money, if I look out our window here, on much more expensive homes, really fancy cars, and all of these other things that they think would make them happy. That's a whole different argument, though. But the point is, we don't do that. We put our money into the travel experience. And as long as we can continue scraping by enough money to afford it, we're going to keep doing it. You know, and it is extremely challenging. And I don't feel like we have a whole lot of stress in our lives, and making sure that our kids are happy is a very important priority for us. But I would say that 95% of the stress that I feel on a daily basis is just related to how much it costs us to produce this content, to have these travels, compared to how much we're making off of doing so.
For me, the stress is the logistics of everything. It can be a little complicated, you know, having to get from A to B and, you know, finding the best way, the cheapest prices and all that. That part can sometimes get stressful if it's last minute, something like that. But I want to say, I think we don't just enjoy it. I think we're good at it. And I think it's okay for me to say that because we're such a team effort and we can look at our product, our episode, and we can say like, we all did something to create this and it looks great. I mean, we still are very critical of ourselves and we're working hard to improve everything, every episode, every day. But I do feel very proud of us and I do feel like we have something here. And I think that we can get even better and better. And I love that. I love that I take this like a job and I take it seriously like a job. Like this is my career. I know you feel like this is your career and we take it seriously and we work hard at it.
And we weren't always good. I mean, you were always great on camera, don't get me wrong, but our episodes were horrendous. And so, yeah, I'm proud of the fact that we cared enough to figure it out. You know, self-taught for the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong, lots of other creators and resources that we've used to learn that stuff. But still, like, we figured this stuff out without any real professional training. And I mean, still so much more room for improvement. But yeah, it's cool that we've gotten it to the point where people compliment the content that we create instead of laughing at it.
Thank goodness.
I think that's all we have time for this episode. Can't stress enough. The group trip, if you want to come along, and we would love to have you come along, time is of the essence. So head over to followabc.com/Philippines trip to register for that.
Nice one. And this is a very different kind of episode than what we've been doing. It's a podcast style episode. So if you like this, give it a comment. If you don't like it, we're not going to be offended. Give us a comment. We want to learn. We want to learn what's best for us is what's best for you. So let us know.